I moved recently, and I live in a new neighborhood in Manhattan now. It's a very friendly block, and people keep very sweetly introducing themselves to me. It's amazing how they fit that title into their conversation. And just like that, you're my neighbor, you know.
I forgot, I was watching some like old movie, old as in like a movie from like—
You can say old, it's okay.
Well, old as in like a movie from like the 80s. It's not like it's like old Hollywood.
Right, no, it's not black and white.
It's not black and white. It's not a talk, whatever. I don't know film history. But it's a pretty colloquial thing. Like people just throw it into casual conversation and they've done
and just
it,
like that?
And just like that. Hello, Cynthia.
Hey, Bowen, how are you?
I'm great. I feel like I have established this like familial connection with you already. Because I don't know if you know this or realize, but we have worked with each other. In some
yes,
way.
twice.
Twice?
Twice.
Oh, I'm only thinking of one.
Which one are you thinking of?
I'm thinking of the Audible original scripted podcast,
Hot White
Heist, where you played my aunt, and we recorded our dialogue separately.
I know, that was sad.
It was sad for me, but when I listened back to it, the biggest thrill for me was listening to our scenes and going, there I am acting alongside Cynthia Nixon.
Oh.
What was the second thing?
We did a DSA benefit.
Oh, we did.
Which was virtual.
It was virtual, but that was lovely.
It was amazing.
Oh, great.
And we were so thrilled when we got you for that.
Oh my gosh, it was my pleasure.
Yeah.
I have to pay my dues. This just in, I have not paid my DSA dues.
Oh.
Anyway, it's fine. It's cut this out. Leave it in.
Can I ask about your flower? It's so beautiful.
Yes, it's a little Alexis Bitar brooch.
Ooh, very
little
nice.
Floral moment.
Very nice.
Can I ask about the zipper?
The zipper? You know, it's really important when for your Metro card.
For your Metro card, if you want to play Uno with someone.
Yeah, only on one side.
Sure.
Only on one side.
Practical.
Yeah. I just wanted to introduce myself in a non-manic, non-crazy lady way. Oh. I'm Miranda Hobbs, and that, I don't even know what to call it, performance I gave about your hair.
It's fine. We don't have to do that again.
Oh, I hear ya.
I wanted to ask you about And Just Like That, and I wonder how it must have felt for you to go back into playing Miranda as an actor who probably experienced closure many different times as you've played her.
Right.
As you've ended each project, whether it was the show originally or the movies.
Right.
I imagine you've like gone through some moment with those things going, well, this is it, I let go of her.
Right.
Talk about what it's like to get back into that person.
When we finished the series after 6 years, I mean, it sort of seemed like that was the end, you know, and then the first movie and the second movie. And really, for years after the second movie, people would ask me on the red carpet and whatever, and I was like, there will not be anything more.
Yes.
We're done.
I believed you.
Well, I believed me too, but you know, Kristen Davis always believed.
Yeah.
And she would always say, you never know. I guess for me, maybe this is a funny answer to your question, but I guess for me, like she lives within me.
Really?
She lives within me, so it wasn't like we had to be reintroduced or go on dates or anything.
Right.
Like, we're good. The thing about Miranda, that the only downside to Miranda is when you're so identified with a character, other kinds of roles can elude you for a certain number of years until you get some distance from that.
Sure. You feel like you got that distance just as you were, I don't know, maybe exploring other things?
Yes, I mean, I got to do so many fun,
Yes.
you know, I got to
Be in a podcast with me.
I got to be in a podcast with you. I got to do a DSA benefit.
Yes.
I got to play Emily Dickinson. I got to do all of these things.
Right.
But I guess one of the great things about our show is that the characters have always been allowed to evolve and change and age, importantly. It was fun to go back to her with sort of everything that had happened to the actors and also to the characters in the meantime.
Yes.
And, you know.
I heard you say that you didn't want to put up new wallpaper, you wanted to build a new house.
Yes, that was me.
Yes, and I love that. And I think that was the only way to go about it.
I think so.
You know? That's going to elicit a strong response. But I think with the title, And Just Like That, you're supposed to key into the fact that like,
things change.
it's transformative and things change.
Right.
Totally.
I moved recently, and I live in a new neighborhood in Manhattan now. It's a very friendly block, and people keep very sweetly introducing themselves to me. It's amazing how they fit that title into their conversation. And just like that, You're my neighbor,
I forgot. I was watching some like old movie. Old as in like a movie from like.
You can say old. It's okay.
Well, old as in like a movie from like the '80s. It's not like it's like old Hollywood.
Right. No, it's not black and white.
It's not black and white. It's not a talk. Whatever. I don't know film history, but it's a pretty colloquial thing. Like people just throw it into casual conversation, and they've done
and just
it.
like that?
And just like that.
Everyone's talking about me. No one's talking about the water. What did the autopsy say? They iceberged it? No, they drowned, bitch. That's not me.
Can I ask you about Saturday Night Live?
No. Yes, please.
You were behind the scenes before
Yes.
we all got to see your amazing face.
Just for one season, which was sort of a little trial by fire crucible that I think Lorne Michaels wanted me to walk through, just so he could make sure that I was decently equipped to do it on camera. When he called me to move me to the cast, he said, I had to make sure that I wasn't throwing you out there without a paddle, because you were gonna have a lot of, not eyes on you, but he said like, you're gonna be scrutinized a little bit differently than other people.
And can I ask, so now that you're on the show, do you write stuff that's not for you, or you only write stuff that's for you? Like, how does that work?
Generally, you write something that like you're sort of in peripherally or sort of holding the center, but like, I always like it when it's some big ensemble piece, when like you're pulling in different people.
Right.
You would go on the subway and you would look at a man's machete or his penis. Now, everyone's looking at their phones. You know why? Because there's something to look at. And what's Dwayne Reed?
I imagine that's what like makes acting as a job so fun, right? Like I feel like, and you're someone who like really holds your circle close to you. I feel like you and Christine Baranski working together again in the Gilded Age was like, oh my God, these are two like New York actors who have like really held the fort here for a while. I have worked together in so many different ways in the past. So I feel like you develop this sort of familial sense of your coterie of people.
Right. Yeah, totally.
What was it like working with Christine again?
She just turned 70 now, like on Monday, and I am 56, I think. I can never remember if I'm 55 or 56. Once you get to these numbers, there just seems like, like 50 cents more, 50 cents less, whatever. I think I'm 56. And when we worked together the first time, I was 17, and she was whatever that math would be, 20. I can't do that math.
It's too early.
But she seemed like the totally appropriate age to be my mother, but she totally wasn't, unless she was like a teenage mother.
Sure.
But I had always, worshipped her.
Yeah.
And we'd always kept in touch. And some years ago, I was in another production with Ewan McGregor and Maggie Gyllenhaal, and I played her role. And she came to see me in it. And it's kind of a version of what you're talking about, which is, I've always loved her because she has such chops, and she's never had a kind of a fallow period. She just kept, she went to Juilliard, so she's super serious, but she just always kept honing her craft. She never stinted on her career, but she never stinted on her marriage, and she never stinted on her motherhood. When you're a little kid, particularly maybe when you're a little girl coming up as a child actor, you really look at the particularly the moms around you and sort of observe how they're doing it. And if you walk that path really carefully, you can actually have all of those things that you want.
It's a shame that you have to walk it carefully, though. Like, if there was latitude to like make it all easy, then like that would be.
I think, though, in a funny way, an actor is a very good job for being a parent. I mean, certainly there's all the fun and the play acting and the dressing up and kids coming and people like put wigs on them and all that kind of stuff. But I also feel like unless you're someone who's just I don't even know who fill in the blanks, who just works every day all day, 365 days a year, there are all of these built-in breaks, and you actually your kids can't expect routine from you, but they can expect you actually to be around a lot, as opposed to if you're at a 9 to 5 or 9 to 8 job every day.
Sure.
And
I guess growing up, you're not really paying attention to your parents' routine anyway. I mean, like maybe you're like aware of like structure in your life.
I think you notice if they're not there for dinner.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I mean, going back to sort of shifting roles, I feel like you have established yourself as a director, but being able to direct an episode and then just like that was probably a really interesting experience. How was that?
So certainly I had directed some things on stage. I had directed some plays, new plays or plays that I helped develop, but directing on film is obviously a whole other thing. And there's a camera, but there's also an enormous crew of people that are all looking to you for direction.
Yeah.
Having it be on the show that I'm not only already on, but I'm a producer of, but also that I have such a long history, and particularly for so much of the cast, you know, we've known each other for literally decades.
Yeah.
And I was unprepared for how supportive everybody would be. I mean, I assumed that they would be, you know, game and willing, but they were just, I don't know, it was almost like they were all my parents.
Wow, because that's not a guarantee. If you're if you're like resetting the parameters a little bit, even just a little bit, you don't know how people will react.
So are you ever gonna say anything about my hair?
Yeah, it's cool. What happened to all the gray pride?
It's still there. I just felt like changing it up again.
I was saying that the finale, and especially that like just the last few scenes of the last episode, that it made me want to like go out there and fall in love. I was like, all right, like this, and it was the best feeling a note to end on. And I'm so glad that it's coming back, but it was like, wow, like this, I'm so happy that like they did this again. For all like the discourse around it, I hope everyone realizes that the discourse is a compliment. The discourse is kind of something we don't get anymore. That everyone's keying into this cultural moment, that this thing is like getting us to have conversations that we wouldn't normally have about a TV show that everyone loves and has so much emotion around. I think it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Patrick King, who's our chief, you know, creator and writer and director, producer, when people would say negative things, Michael Patrick would be like, it's fantastic.
Wow.
We're having a water cooler moment, and another one, and another one, and another one, at a time when there is
none of that.
So much, I mean, that's just the thing, is there's so much to watch and so many great things to watch. It's almost impossible to break through.
Well,
What do you mean, well?
only that all men, or almost all, have a fling of some sort when they're young and they live to tell the tale.
Oh, this is a tale I'd rather were not told.
I just think these things happen.
There's a lot of parallels with Ada in the Gilded Age, where these are women who, you know, one is like being like labeled like a spinster,
Right.
and the other is like this like woman with a lot of agency,
Right.
and who doesn't really let the labels stick to her. I mean, not that there are any thrown on Miranda, but at the same time, these are both women who long after something.
Yes.
Playing longing is really difficult as an actor.
Really?
I don't know. It's like, where do you pull from? Where does that come from? If you're like, because with Ada, it's like she's like staring out a window, or she's like, you know, talking to Marion and being like, she's like, oh, she's like a, you know, she can be a mother to this person. Or,
Right. Well, I'll just say there's exciting things happening in season 2.
Okay.
Obviously, Miranda, by virtue of her personality and by virtue of the time in which she's living, has a lot more options open for her. But
Yeah.
I feel like Ada's sitting and watching and waiting for her moment. The status quo wasn't designed for them.
Yeah.
And they're waiting for their moment to sort, anytime they can get a foot in the door, they do in different
Yeah.
ways.
Wow.
Can I ask about performing live and whether it's like nothing for you? I mean, because, you know, I'm on stage and, you know, whatever, but I've rehearsed for like a month.
Right.
You know, and I've had my script for maybe much longer than that,
Yes.
you know? It's obviously such a crucible of creativity, you know, that short time frame and being shot out of a cannon, but like,
Yeah.
does it?
It feels like that. It feels like being shot out of a cannon.
Yeah.
And it feels like, unlike theater, you know, you're sort of reading off a cue card. You're like, I always say, like, you're pitching to the rafters and like, while also trying to like play to the camera and for the people at home. And then I also always say that credits don't transfer.
What do you mean?
Like a movie set doesn't work like that. A TV set doesn't work like that. You're supposed to like memorize your lines. You're supposed to not care about, like, at least, you know, if I'm not doing a comedy, which, you know, in the handful of times I haven't done a comedy, it's like you're supposed to be okay with the people around you not reacting to what you're doing or giving you immediate feedback. That's sort of like the beautiful thing about working at SNL, is that you sort of know on Saturday if something that you thought of on Tuesday succeeds or fails.
In the moment.
In the moment, right? And like, you don't really get that in any other process, especially with acting, which is something that I'm relatively new at. I find that a little jarring anytime I'm reminded, oh, right, not every place works like SNL. Of course it doesn't.
Right.
You know, like you're supposed to like wrap on a movie and then wait like 9 months or 2 years or whatever to see how people react.
And see
to
what's
it.
left of what you did.
Yes. And it's good to have that balance, but I feel like I have such weird whiplash between both modes that it's
But are
interesting.
you terrified, and are different like, is there a range of how nervous people are? And
Totally. I think there is this like high baseline of like frequency and nerves that everyone's like, okay, it's Saturday, like, and there's like loud saxophone music playing that really just like kind of gets you in the zone. I think everyone now, like, this is just a very 2020s way of working at SNL now, but everyone like meditates, I think. Everyone like finds ways to like really like center themselves or like align their chakras, whatever. But I find that I still get this insane adrenaline rush anytime I go on stage. There's only so much you can do before you go on stage and wear a crazy costume or do this thing that you're not sure if people are going to respond to, all while going, wow, I was in bed half asleep thinking of this idea, and now it's going to be on TV.
And everybody's going to see it.
Exactly.
And what about your hosts? I mean, of course, there are hosts that have hosted multiple times, but are you always watching that person and being like, what are they going to be like on Saturday? Are they going to pull it like?
Yeah, I think you constantly come in with a certain expectation on how they're going to be, and it's always delightful. They usually just subvert it because they want to do a good job. No one's coming in with like
no, of course,
in bad faith or with like ill intent going, I'm gonna really throw it, you know?
But people just generally, they look a little nervous, but not so much. I think I would just be, oh my God.
No way. Oh no, you'd rock it. Because you've done everything you can do in the industry. I feel like it would be a cakewalk.
And what about, I mean, you've done such outrageous and hilarious things. Like, what about the Iceberg?
My God. Okay, wow. Okay, fine. You want to do this? Let's do this. First of all, you came to where I live and you hit me.
Where did that even come from? I mean, it was like the anniversary. Did that come from you?
It was the anniversary. It came from the head writer at the time, Anna Dresden, who was an old friend of mine from college. And she texted me in February, maybe for the April show, the April 11th show, whatever it was. You come out as the Iceberg and you're there to promote your album. And I was like, oh, sure. And I think I needed to like fill in so many unknowns and specifics. So that by the time we sat down to write it, like we were just already in such an absurd headspace that we were just like throwing out just the silliest little details. But it was all kind of set up for us to do because we understood that like, let's just like go for broke here and just really throw everything against the wall. And that was the thing where all week I was like, I don't think people are gonna think this is funny.
Really?
I was like, there's too much going on here.
Like it's too complicated a joke?
Or not that it's too complicated a joke, is that it's a little too bulky. There's just too much, we're like embellishing it with too much stuff. And I'm glad it worked out in the end, but I will say, April 2022, a year after that update, Anna and I did talk about maybe bringing it back.
Yeah.
And then we ultimately decided not to, because I had this feeling that I imagine is a fraction of how you feel anytime you go back and play Miranda. The first time was so pristine.
Right.
I just want to keep that sort of preserved, you know? And I had this, I couldn't really, I don't know if it's a fear, but I couldn't overcome that like idea that maybe like the way I did it the first time is how I want to keep it. And I feel like it's extremely vulnerable anytime a person or a group of people decide to like venture out again and do something and continue something that is like so entrenched in people's minds as one thing. I don't know.
That's so interesting.
Is there a general feeling about that, like among the cast and crew of And Just Like That like this is like a really bold thing we're doing?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like on the one hand, obviously it does up the pressure.
Yeah.
But I feel like, so many of the things that we wanted to look at with And Just Like That had to do with, the age that we are now, and had to do with what a white show our show had been, and like wanting to change that, but wanting not to change that in some like magical wand way where there's lots of different people of color now. But I also felt like the things that we wanted to try and do, if we had just appeared out of nowhere, new, and people would have been like, no. I mean, the reason that we had the ability and the permission to even try those hard things was that people love us. Do you know what I mean? It's as if the Iceberg wanted to do, take it farther, but people will give you that much more lead because, well, it's the Iceberg. Everybody wants to see the Iceberg again.
Sure.
Or what about Fran Lebowitz?
Oh yeah, that's like the idea that I like so quickly index as like, I was stoned in my bed on Tuesday watching Pretend It's a City, and I was like, I want to play her. And then on Saturday, I was her, and I was like, this is crazy. I was like, this is what an insane turnaround.
Disgusting. I'll never move. My friends, they're inviting me to their backyards for socially distanced gatherings. The only outdoor gathering I go to is the taxi line at JFK. You know why? They let you smoke, okay? Marty, you still into this? Yeah.
That's what I'll miss about the job. That's what a lot of the alums who come through are like, just like really enjoy it while you're here because you're gonna miss it when you leave because it doesn't work any.
It's so intense.
I know.
It's so intense.
And it's hard.
And so creative.
Yeah, exactly. It's so difficult, but when it's fun, it's so fun. And that's what I'm really trying to like connect with that idea.
Right.
That like, while I'm in it, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
So, Cynthia, this was such a pleasure.
It was totally delightful. I wish it wasn't over.
I wish it wasn't over. And this isn't up to you. It's not up to me. What am I saying? I will always be your nephew in my mind. I feel that. Everyone listen to Hot White Heist.
Hot White Heist, one of the gayest things you'll ever hear.
True, it's true.